Bullshit.
We're with Greg Joseph of the Clarks. It's the No BS Marketing Show. I'm your host, Dave Mastovich. Greg, we talked about it in the pre-interview conversation about how when it comes to messaging, we have to understand both our why or reason for being and our customers' why or reason for buying. And then we need to crystallize that into one big idea, one memorable message or theme that makes an emotional impact on our target audience. So whether it's for you personally or the Clarks, what's your big idea?
The big idea, and it goes back and forth between the band and the audience, it is all about connecting. And connecting can mean a lot of different things. It's music. It's connecting through music. When people come up to us after shows and say, I went through a really hard time and I listened to blank, blank, blank. We got married to, our wedding song was Penny on the Floor, which is always ironic to me because that's a big breakup song and that's people's, I don't get the connection. Through emotion, through stage emotion, through social media, how do people connect with you? What messaging do you put up there? Are you always on a rant? Is it negative? I've seen musicians do that where everything is kind of a bitch and moan thing, or is it positive? Does it allow for folks to get closer to you? And I think fans want to get inside of you. They're on one side of the stage, and once you cross over to the other side of the stage, there's a huge piece of unknown that everybody wants to know. And if you can offer that in small bits and pieces, that is what keeps people really intrigued. And that's the connectivity. Lyrics, good songs.
That's awesome. Great stuff. So now I have to go make sure we cover two more parts of your career here. Talk about the sports, art, and entertainment program and what you specifically teach at Point Park.
I am in the talent management class, and I co-teach that with Amy Cooper from Stage AE and Steve Tanzilli, who is a professor at Point Park University.
So these students are getting a marquee billing. They're getting Amy and you that's pretty awesome.
You get a real life perspective on what happens in the industry. I got a textbook. I ordered one textbook, which is artist management, and I reference it because there are a lot of great points in it. But when you read that, it's black and white. There's no story attached to it. There's no sense of realism to it. It's a little bit stuffy. So Amy and I can really put, and Steve for that matter, can put a real human touch to what that business is all about. And Ed Traversary is another, he's a guy that's been in the industry working with the Caesar Angler for years and years. He's also a professor at Point Park, and he really, you talk about a guy who has more stories and more information. He's the guy to go to if you want to learn about the business here in Pittsburgh.
I want to ask you a question because recently had a conversation with Amy Bradley, who heads up PR, marketing, communications for a healthcare system, Commonwealth Health System. She's also a professor of PR at UPJ, and I'm a professor at IUP of marketing, sales, stuff like that. And we were talking about our classes and how a sizable portion of the students don't buy the book. So I wanted to ask you, have you found that you have the book that you're going to be, like, I go in and I say, we had a quiz on this book, and I know half the class didn't even purchase the book, and I'm wondering, how did you possibly do well on the quiz? But it's kind of a dynamic that's shifted because books are now 150 to 200 just for one book. What are your thoughts? Do you think you have some students who don't buy that book?
I made it real easy. We don't have to buy the book.
Okay.
So I bought the book as a reference, and I translate that to my notes or use that for my notes. So no, I don't force them to, but if they would like to buy the book, and the kids that are really, really serious are going to buy the book.
Yeah.
But it's my note work and my class work that we base, the quizzes off of, and that's the knowledge base that I want them to pull from.
What else do you do as far as how do you assess them? How many quizzes, how many tests, how many papers, things like that?
Between the three of us, we'll each have a quiz, and there is a final exam. There may be requirements to do papers here or there, or even to attend a show, which sounds like a really easy thing, but sometimes I wonder, there's the part where you're not sure how kids get by, because you can tell that some kids probably didn't even go to the show. When you read through, it's like, no, you can't BS me on this.
Yeah. Yep. That's the interesting thing, that we were just having that conversation. It ties to what you're saying, is the resources available to be a BS college student are many now. They've always been available, but now it's so easy and readily available with just Googling everything and faking it.
You can, yeah. I don't know where. I would imagine they get their textbook information at the same place that they get their music. They pirate it from, from somewhere.
Which is probably why the books are now $200 for the poor kids who actually buy it. Talk about Sonic Dog. It's a jingle company.
Yeah, and I started that just as a side project. I have a Pro Tools recording setup, which is nothing more than a glorified computer with some good interface equipment, and I can really produce entire commercials in my space. I've gone out to a few companies and done that just as a part-time thing. I've never pursued it as a full-time thing because I just don't have the time to do it, but it's fun. I've enjoyed working with clients, and the thing that's different about doing jingle work is, with a band song, if a band song goes on for 2.5 minutes, 5 minutes, 20 minutes, it doesn't matter. But with a jingle, you have a box and you have to fill it, and you have to fill it right to the brim, and that's all there is. And there are a lot of different opinions. There's business opinions, there's lawyers' opinions, there's client opinions, there's customer opinions that can all play into that, and it's a really tightly defined space. And it's fun to play with the pieces, in this Rubik cube to get it just right.
We're going to talk more about creative process and creative on demand with the sights and sounds as we get into it. So I'm going to come back to what you were just talking about there. So pick a tool or tip you'd offer that'll help our audience tell their story, craft their message, or communicate to internal and external target audiences. One that I often use as an example is something that I use Google Trends and FeedSpot just to generate content ideas. But other people have talked about their favorite book or blog or a productivity resource. Then some of the guests just flat out want to give a career tip. They want to give career advice to help people and help our listeners. So what tool or tip would you like to give?
I would say, and it may not be applicable to everybody doing marketing. It might not be appropriate to every business. But the crowdsourcing, the crowdfunding opportunities that are out there, the Kickstarters, and what we have used is Pledge Music. I find that to be an amazing tool these days for a number of different reasons. And one is it's a great supply and demand barometer. That, there was a point where when we were transitioning from CDs to downloads, where we would order a bunch of CDs, but you never knew as time was going on and we were going more to downloads, you didn't know what the inventory should be. Should we order 10,000 and get the price break, or should we do 5,000, pay more for them, and then maybe need to reorder another 2,500? Where does that all sort of make sense? And now it sort of spells itself out to you, because people are responding. You're saying, okay, we're going to put this product out in anticipation. We want you to pre-purchase it, basically, with some value adds attached to it. And that determines a really, a good amount of your supply and demand, or the demand and what you have to supply.
It is cool. I've seen some fellow podcasters. John Lee Dumas did that with his Freedom Journal. And exactly what you said, there was all kinds of different levels. If you put this much into it, you got this much more value adds. If you put the middle package, you got this. If you got the third package, you bought the product.
Bands are reluctant to do it, and I understand it, because it's not a traditional tool, and it's a brand new thing. And I can see where asking someone up front for something seems, people just don't have that personality to ask for something up front. But you're not asking for money without something in return. What we're saying is, for $10, you get the CD and download, but we're going to value add that. We're going to add other things in for that $10. We're going to let you in on studio videos. We're going to let you in on this last project. We said, which version of this song do you like better, A or B? And they got to vote on it, and it came out the way we thought it. It confirmed what we were saying about which version we thought we should put out there. But they got to have input to that. There were free show opportunities, ticket opportunities, autograph CDs, all kinds of different value add things. We would give away guitars. Not give away. We would put a premium on a guitar, which was autographed, lyric sheets that were handwritten, special posters just for pledgers that we would not sell to anybody else. So there are special products that you can charge for that ordinarily you wouldn't. And I think that's proactive and creative, and it's not taking money from people. The one thing I will say, this all sounds rosy and everything, but the first time we did it, and because we're older guys and we have a little bit older fan base, we found that your messaging has to be perfectly clear as to what you're doing. We put this pledge campaign out there initially, and there were responses like, "You've got to be kidding. I've seen the cars they drive. I've seen the houses they live in. I can't believe they're begging for money." It's like, well, wait a minute. We're not. We're just doing a pre-sale. And I guess we should have said, we should have put more emphasis on pre-sale and premiums instead of the, help our Kickstarter, help donate, help be a bank loan, because that's not what it's about. And we communicated improperly, and we straightened that out on the second project and learned a lot, because I think it damaged a couple relationships with fans that thought that's what the premise was.
Interesting. So the messaging was huge on it. And as Suzanne was waving over here, it all ties back to your big idea of connecting. All this stuff on the crowdsourcing and the crowdfunding and the Kickstarter is connecting by giving more things to help you connect with that target audience.
How do you let them inside? How do you let them on the other side of the stage?
Yes.
How do you let them into your house, into your practice space? And that's it. You give them special videos. You give them special content. And we did a video about the last record, because it was a covers record. It was called Rewind, where we sat down, all four of us, and did an interview about what those songs meant to us from way back in the IUP days through now. And we released that to the pledgers initially before the public got a chance to see that material.
That's really a good way to handle it. Well, Greg, it's now time to keep calm and hit the bullseye. I'll ask you to choose between two marketing or messaging classics. You tell me which one you like more, but you only have a few seconds to choose and hit the bullseye. Are you ready?
Yes.
Geico's Gecko or the Aflac Duck?
Aflac.
Why?
I just love that. I loved Gilbert Gottfried, first of all, until he got himself in a little bit of personal trouble there and got removed. Aflac. It's Aflac. Aflac, Aflac, Aflac. That's it. It's one word. It's simple. Geico is a little more complicated and a little more subdued.
Okay. Don't Leave Home Without It or Priceless?
Wow. I'm going to flip-flop now and say Don't Leave Home Without It, because that just seems like a stronger message. Priceless, it seems soft.
Okay. Progressive's Flow or Jake from State Farm?
I find her annoying. Yeah, it's overdone. At first, I thought that was a really good concept, but the Jake thing, I've turned on to. Yeah.
All right, the khaki guys. So now I'm going to make you rank three. It's going to be a first ever for a bullseye. I've selected three bands that I think are seminal from our era.
Okay.
For different reasons.
Okay.
And you can talk about all three if you'd like, or just pick one or two, or however the hell you want to do it.
So I'm ranking it on
your personal,
own perceptions. Okay.
But you got to give a little bit of reasons why. So one is a name like yours, The Smiths. Another is REM, and another is U2.
Wow, that's really interesting, because U2 and REM at the time that we were developing, back in the late 80s, those two bands were the barometer for everything. When you'd go to a club, the first thing that would come out of someone's mouth is, "Oh, they sound like U2," or "Oh, they sound like REM." Unbelievable that you would bring those two up, because that's what everybody was following at that time and trying to be like.
Yes.
I would say in my world, U2, they're obviously the bigger band. They've had, I think they're the last supergroup.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, maybe Foo Fighters.
Yeah, potentially.
Yeah.
But careers aren't made like that anymore.
Right.
It's so one and done that long careers aren't made the way U2 has done it. REM second, I believe, because they connect a little more with my soul and my sense of musicality, and Smith's third.
So I asked that question because of exactly what you said. There was a time when REM was better thought of by people that were kind of in the know on the music side, people that weren't just listening to the pop stuff. Doesn't mean that those people didn't think U2 was good, but there was a period there where REM was the college band, the more less commercial band, and then U2 just continued with these last 3 or 4 albums that were still awesome after all those albums. But then I threw the Smiths in there because I think they were the purest one for about a 5-year period, just amazing, and then they never got back together. And so I just thought from our era, I'd throw them in as well.
Yeah, and that becomes a longevity thing. And how many bands are still at the age that U2 is and remaining relevant with new material? Even REM, they've somewhat become a legacy band, as have the Smiths, where U2 continues to crank.
It's amazing that Dismantle an Atomic Bomb and All That You Can't Have, those two are just so good for that age in your life and as a band. It's just ridiculous. And even the one with Magnificent on it, that No Line on the Horizon, that's actually pretty good. And even this last one was actually pretty good. The one that got bashed for the free release on Apple. What do you think of that?
I know one person who just, every time I saw him, he would say, "I got that stupid download and I can't get it off. I can't get it off my machine." It just came, and there was no way that he found to get it off of his whatever machine it was on, and he was so annoyed by that. I think I'm 50-50 on that. I understand giving something away, but that just seemed a little overwrought to me.
Yep. So now going back to our youth, this is the fun one for you.
Okay.
Evel Knievel or the $6 Million Man?
Oh, boy.
Did you have the little Evel Knievel? You pulled the thing and went...
I didn't have that. The neighbor kid had that.
Oh, you wanted to...
And I sat in front of the television. I was roped into the Snake River Canyon thing. And the parachute went off as soon as he went off the...
that was the biggest letdown of my childhood.
Yeah.
That is the biggest letdown.
Yeah, that was a shame.
Yes.
Because I wanted to see what happened. I mean, it didn't seem like that was going to work. That
we were totally convinced he was going to die.
Yeah.
Like riveting TV.
But I would say I was more in tune with Evel Knievel and all of his jumps. And I watched a special on him probably about a year ago, and I thought it was really intriguing.
Yes.
But who did you say, $6 Million Man?
Well, and the reason I brought up $6 Million Man, you spent some time, you're on the board of WYEP, and then you were interim general manager, and the person you hired is Abby Goldstein, who, when she was on, she talked about how her brother did what I happened to do to annoy my family, was I would jump and go, "Purr, purr, 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 purr,"
oh, yeah, yeah.
$6 Million Man. So she brought up her brother. So I thought, well, I want to put that in, see if he remembers doing anything crazy. The $6 Million Man's bionic jumping and running 300 miles an hour.
I think I think all of us as kids did that. Would run in slow motion, but it was actually fast motion. Kind of a thing. And the eye, who had the eye? Was that
he
him?
had the eye, and then his girlfriend had the ear. She could hear anything. She was never really his girlfriend. I'm being sarcastic, but she was the bionic woman. She had the ear. She could hear everything.
I did more of the Robin Williams Shazbot.
Yes. Mork and Mindy. Yes.
Yeah.
Lay's, bet you can't eat just one, or Doritos for the bold?
I'm a Doritos, yeah. I really love what they do with marketing all the way around with the Super Bowl ads and the creativity.
Absolutely. How about Hotels.com's Captain Obvious or The Most Interesting Man in the World?
Those are both really unlikable characters, but I will go with The Most Interesting Man.
Okay. So that wasn't too painful. That was to hit the bullseye.
Did we hit it?
We did. You hit it.
All righty.
Really good. So now, Suzanne knows I was nervous about the sights and sounds of marketing, which I rarely am nervous about, because I thought, how am I going to analyze a song that he might have wrote, or wrote part of it, or wrote all of it, or whatever? But then if I don't do a Clark song, I'm kind of a jerk. So I'm going to go with Born Too Late off your 5th studio album, Let It Go, released in the year 2000. Good, I don't have any pressure. He didn't write that one.
We need to go back and do a song that I wrote, so we can really get a
let's scrap that. Let's pick one. Pick one that you wrote, and we'll just Google the lyrics, and you can tell us the lyrics off the top of your head. And then I'll make up the year on the fly. This will be great. This is going to be like a Kickstarter campaign. All right, so what song do we want to do?
We'll do Feathers and Bones.
Feathers and Bones.
Which is on the Feathers and Bones CD. That's why I thought that would be a good one.
Okay, and what year did that come out?
That was 2 years ago.
Okay. 14? Late 13?
14.
Okay. All right. He has it not. Do you have it? Do you need it? Because I have it here.
Yeah, and it's on that. It's right on that CD that you have right in front of you too.
Here, we'll put this here.
Okay.
All right. We're ready? Go ahead. So what we would normally do is we would pick a lyric and read the lyric and then talk about how it applied to leadership, communication, marketing. But when we have the actual writer here, we just want you to pick a lyric and talk about why that resonated and what it means and how it went flowing for the song. So this is a special Sights and Sounds. Our audience is going to love it.
This song runs really deep for me because it's about my mother-in-law who was living at our house in the time that she had Alzheimer's, which was really the last 15 years of her life. She passed away in our home last January, and I had never really thought about, I didn't think that I could get enough emotion or tell the story correctly, and I wasn't sure I was willing to let people in that close to my life, to my personal life, and to my mother-in-law's about what was going on in our house at the time. And she just sang all the time since the time I knew her, since she was younger. And my wife and my father-in-law used to joke with her about, oh, there she goes singing it. But she had this wonderful, wonderful voice, and they respected the fact that she could sing really well. And I loved listening to her. And even during the time when she had terrible, terrible Alzheimer's, things would still come out of her mouth because she still knew there was a concept of singing, but she didn't really know words. The first lines of the song is she sang like a bird, high on a wire, at every chance, soulful as she could. And the words she chose were driven with such passion, but sadly I never understood. She sang of God and cursed like a sailor, her manners of a queen, but grew up poor. With her broken mind, she'd stare with no reactions. She didn't know her name or mine or yours. And that really relates to the fact that she sang. She didn't know what. She didn't know anything. She didn't know anything going on around her. She didn't know my name at some point. But there was still a bond through this music that happened. And I found that to be intriguing, that the last vestige of sanity or her mind was music, even after she could not speak.
That's deep.
Yeah.
How long did it take you to write it?
Once it got started, it really flowed because the ideas were all there. They were printed in my head from many years and many experiences of hanging with her.
So the first time you played it, what were your emotions? Did you cry?
Yeah, when we finally did it on stage, and I gave it to the band initially, and I think they were just kind of silent when they first heard it, because so many songs can be written about nothing or some fun situation, but to dig deep into our lives is something we do on occasion, and there's some moments that really bring all of us to tears because we know the situation and the hardships that go with them.
Yeah.
It became obvious that would be a title because there is a there's an intangible to it, but there's a very much a tangible to it. And I think that's how we've always sort of done our album titles.
Now, one of the things about messaging when you do a song that I've often wondered how much you consciously do this from a marketing standpoint, but do you, when you play it live, at least in the early going, did you explain the story behind it so that people would kind of get the lyrics and so forth?
Yeah, from time to time I would explain it, and whenever I would do solo shows or an open stage and play it, I would definitely mention it, and I know I've mentioned it online. And I think that song in particular, for me, and that's the one, the reason why I wanted to bring that up, is that I have never had more people come up to me and say, I get that. I understood it even before you told me what it was. And there's this circle of Alzheimer's kids who have taken care of Alzheimer's parents that get it, and they're on the inside of that story. They're on my side of the stage with that story.
That's powerful. That's powerful.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that. So with that does go down the path, because I threw out the other song. What is your songwriting process as a group? Does everybody write the lyrics to certain songs, or do you collaborate? Like, how do you do it?
We usually, after we finish a project, we'll tour on that project, and then we'll say, okay, let's start this process of getting new songs together, and we'll each start in our own home, pulling those experiences together and writing songs. And it's, Scott and myself write most of the tunes, and we'll come in with pretty finished ideas, just the way it's always been, that it's easier to come in with most of a song and then have the band and the producer tweak it. And it works really well. I don't think we've ever done very much with collaborating, sitting in the same room and collaborating. Rob has written songs, Dave has written songs, and they've come in with pretty full ideas. Mm-hmm. But I think over the past couple of projects, we've entertained that a little bit more, that we'll start to take songs in different directions. And our producer, Sean McDonald, has helped us to, maybe see a trend that we're heading down the same path that we did with a previous song. And he'll say, you've done that already. Let's do this. And he's convinced us to go a couple of different directions with things. So that's where the creative process amongst all of us collaboratively comes together when we're in the studio and sort of figuring out how to make something fresh and new.
Mm-hmm. So from the time you finish touring on an album or CD, what's your time frame typically for all of you guys to write some stuff on your own, then get together, collaborate, and finish it?
That can be anywhere from 2 to 5 years, really. We a couple of projects ago, to get this Feathers and Bones project out, it took us far too long. We probably spent a year or two in a lull that we shouldn't have been, which directly affects marketing. If you have the same product, if you don't update the product, if you don't put it in a new container, a new package, put it on a different shelf, put it in new stores, do this, do that, people are going to walk past it. And you need to repackage and retool and put something new out every so often, or the brand starts to decline.
So it's been almost 30 years. What's your thought long term? How long do you hope this goes? What's your goal?
It's gone 29 years further, and I am probably the worst judge of where it will go. I think we all seem really engaged and actually are having more fun playing because we see each other less and less every year, and really enjoy playing. And I think we're excited about a next project. And we'll get done with that project and we'll say, oh, brother, I can't even think about another project. And then we'll do it again. So there is no end in sight. There's no, I'll go as long as everybody wants to.
And what are your plans for a 30th anniversary type campaign program?
Already got the logos in the can coming out, and that part of it always changes with our merchandise, with T-shirts in particular. I remember somebody coming up to me one time and saying, you need to establish a brand and a logo, a single logo like Boston or Journey. And I was like, no, this isn't Coke. We're not looking for recognition on a shelf in some way. we're looking for obsolescence. We're looking to put out a shirt, put out another shirt, put out another shirt, and have people buy more because we have a cool logo or it relates to something that's happening that year, that summer, that tour. And I think people have gotten into the mindset that we're always going to have something new and they want to collect.
Mm-hmm. Now, did everybody stay in Western Pennsylvania?
Yeah, we're in 4 adjoining counties of Washington. Mercer isn't. Washington, Mercer, Allegheny, and Beaver.
And you stayed near where you grew up?
Allegheny, yes. I'm in the Hampton Township area. I grew up in North Allegheny.
North Allegheny and went to the rival.
Yeah. I went from the one highest tax base to the next highest tax base in the county.
Yeah.
With no kids. That made a lot of sense then, didn't it?
So, Greg, how can listeners contact you if they'd like to learn more about what you do, since you have so much going on with Sonic Dog and the teaching and, of course, the Clarks?
You can go to my Facebook page, Greg Joseph, on Facebook, and you can go to gregjosephmusic.com. SonicDogStudios.com will kind of take you to the same site, and those are the main areas. I'm not a Twitterer. But you'll find all the information on the website, and it has information about the Jingle Studio, a little bit of information about the band, also about teaching and clinics that I do, about songwriting in the music business, and I think that pretty much covers everything.
Well, that's great. We'll put that stuff on the show notes. I want to thank you, Greg, for being on the show. I want to thank Suzanne for connecting us, our producer, Suzanne Mayer, who finds fantastic guests like you. This was a great episode. Every single guest has been fantastic, and they all bring something unique. And just those 3 things of the teaching and the unique program that you're teaching, the Sonic Dog, and, of course, the big brand name of the Clarks brought a whole new dimension to the show. So thank you both.
Well, thank you, Dave. This has been a lot of fun. Yeah.
And thank you to our listeners for joining us for the No Bullshit Marketing Show. Visit boldsolutionsnobs.com for show notes plus additional marketing and messaging resources. And Greg, you have to sign up for light reading. You'll receive valuable strategies every other week to improve your marketing and transform your message. It really is light, intended to be read in 2 minutes or less. And the goal is that it will trigger bright ideas for you. To sign up, visit masssolutions.biz. Let's all sign up for that. And remember, ask yourself, what's the big idea, and build your story around the answer. It's all about bold solutions.